Good morning, everyone. I am showing 11 o'clock, so we will go ahead and get started with our BASC meeting. As you all know, today is virtual only. I hope everybody is in a nice warm spot on this snowy cold day. Just as a reminder, anyone in the Zoom meeting, I would ask everybody to mute your microphones unless you are speaking. If a regent or someone else participating has a question or has a comment, please unmute yourself and ask to be recognized. Once you've been recognized, once that person has been recognized, everyone else should still keep their microphones muted because of the feedback. Please state your name and your title before you speak so that everyone knows who is speaking to us. For our presentations today, we'll share the screen with everyone so that you can view those materials, but we will also, you can also find the agenda materials we're referencing posted on the Board of Regents website under the board agenda minutes or materials. Okay, with that, I will go ahead and call the meeting to order. If I could have Jennifer, if you're on, could you please do roll call?
Hi, good morning. Regent Mendoza.
Present.
Regent Johnston. Here. Regent Parasker.
I saw her jump on.
That's okay. And then we have Regent Wolfmore.
Here.
Perfect. I would like to welcome our newest regent and committee member, Kathy Wolfmore. I believe this is her first BASC meeting with us, so welcome to the committee. Welcome to the team.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Are there any other introductions this morning? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to approval of the meeting minutes from January 29th. Are there any comments or questions about those meetings or those minutes? I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
And I will second. So all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. Our first item of business today is Dr. Mulholland with clarification of the program review metrics. Dr. Mulholland.
Thank you, Regent Mendoza. At the November 6, 2024 BASC meeting, the members approved several revisions to the metrics
I think we lost.
and
Dr. Mulholland, you froze for a minute. Could you repeat what you just said?
Sure. I'll start at the beginning. I'm not sure where I froze up. It is very cold in my office, so maybe that's the problem. At the November 6, 2024 BASC meeting, the members approved several revisions to the metrics used for academic program review. Those recommendations were then sent to the full board for its review and approval, and the board approved those on December 18th of 2024. In preparing the issue paper for the board, one recommendation was truncated and an important phrase was inadvertently deleted. KBOR staff discovered the discrepancy after the December board meeting. Academic Affairs staff is bringing this back to BASC so that it can confirm its intent to approve the recommended changes to the program review metrics that it made on November 6th. If the members of BASC concur, we will add this clarification to the board consent agenda in March. If I can share my screen, which I don't know if I'm doing now or not.
We're not seeing anything yet.
Jennifer, I think oh, there it is. If you can see, this is the recommendation as approved by BASC on November 6th. Students who pursue graduate study immediately upon graduation can be included in the talent pipeline metric. Additionally, these students should not be included in the wage metric 5 years post-baccalaureate. What ended up in the board recommendation or the board issue paper was just excluding from the 5-year post-baccalaureate wage metric students who immediately pursue graduate studies upon completion of a bachelor's degree. So the key phrase there is allowing institutions to include students who immediately pursue graduate study upon graduation can be included in the talent pipeline metric. I hope that's clear for all the members. I think what we're asking for is just your affirmation that this is what you intended to send to the board for its approval. We can then take this affirmation, share it with the board so that this becomes a part of the official record.
I believe when we started these conversations, that was what one of the requests from the provost, I believe, as we had that conversation. So this looks good to me, but I'm not sure if there are any other committee members or perhaps provosts online that would like to comment or had any thoughts about this.
Regent Mendoza, I think that's exactly what we had talked about. So I would move for approval to include that affirmation in the next meeting for board approval.
Any other further discussion on this item? Okay, hearing none, I would second that motion. Regent Johnston. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you, Dr. Monholland.
Thank you.
All right, next up we have Misty Knox, who will be delivering the annual report on Apply Kansas application campaign. The Kansas Free Applications Day and Act on Kansas Free and we'll talk about acting on the Kansas Free Application Day for the 25-26 academic year. Misty?
Thanks, Chair Mendoza. Appreciate it. So the Apply Kansas initiative is a board goal under the family pillar of the Building a Future Strategic Plan. It's centered on the continued implementation and expansion of the Apply Kansas efforts. So in today's report, I'll provide you with a highlight of the growth of Apply Kansas, really focusing on its widespread adoption and the growing involvement of both students and schools across the state. In 2024, we saw a significant increase in participation, driven by a more targeted approach to the school registration, with 89% of school districts now involved. So Apply Kansas began in 2015 as a part of the American College Application Campaign with the goal of increasing the number of first-generation and low-income students applying to college. It was designed to provide structured support for Kansas high school seniors during the application process, and really celebrates all post-secondary plans, including college, career, or other pathways. So these events are held during the school day, offering students hands-on assistance as they complete applications for college, jobs, or other post-high school pathways. So schools can choose to host these events during those 3 Apply Free days or any other day in the fall that best fits their schedule. Reporting to board staff for the Apply Kansas events occurs by December 1st. So anytime between when school starts to December 1st, those events can be held. So as I mentioned, the American College Application Campaign is the national initiative that's housed through the ACT Center for Equity and Learning. All 50 states operate their own version of this campaign. So the initiatives are customized to address the state's needs that are, and they have their own designated name, as you can see here. State coordinators convene monthly to collaborate, exchange best practices, share resources, and really align efforts nationwide. KBOR assumed leadership of the Apply Kansas campaign in 2020. So the data provided today will articulate the data since we have taken over this initiative. This year, 301 schools registered to participate in Apply Kansas, with 259 of those schools reporting data to us. So that data is self-reported by those Apply Kansas site coordinators and sent to board staff. So in terms of school districts, there's 253 out of 286 school districts in the state who participate, which is a big increase from previous years. So this is resulting in an 89% participation rate across the state for our school districts. Of the schools that participated in Apply Kansas, half of those, 151 of those, are considered economically disadvantaged. We took a more targeted approach this year, really in supporting those high schools who were considered economically disadvantaged and really want them to not only be included, but also receive supports, just better support their students. So as I mentioned, KBOR assumed leadership of the Apply Kansas in 2020. So data provided today will begin with the 2020 year. But since then, there's been significant increase in both school participation as well as the number of schools reporting data to us. So this means, again, schools are not only registering, but they're actively hosting these application events to support their students, which is what we want to see. In 2020, 108 out of the 151 schools reported data to us. So that represents about 72% of registered schools. Fast forward to 2024, this number has risen to 259 out of 301 schools. Again, reflecting an impressive 86% reporting rate. So with that jump from 72% to 86%. This really highlights the campaign's expanding reach and effectiveness. The slide focuses really on those 3-year trends, highlighting the initiative's expanding reach and growing commitment of schools to both participate and also to report that data. As shown in 2024, we saw a significant 38% increase in the number of schools registered compared to the previous year at that 10% increase, along with a 33% increase in the number of schools reporting data. So these increases are very significant in comparison to previous years since we've taken over leadership of this campaign. Move right along to the student impact. This slide shows the number of seniors participating in the application events, the total number of applications submitted, and the average number of applications per student, which you can see there is between 1 and 2. So of the 22,808 applications submitted to our institutions, 60% of those were actually to our public institutions. Slide highlights again the 3-year trend showing the year-over-year increase in senior participation and college applications, demonstrating again the initiative's growing impact. The 259 Apply Kansas schools that reported data can now qualify to be All-Star High Schools. As you'll recall, I reported out on the All-Star High Schools in October. So they're moving forward with hosting the FAFSA completion initiatives and then also the senior signing day events where they're celebrating all the post-secondary plans of their seniors. Just to build on this momentum for a second, I want to take a look at the newly released college going rate for a moment. So when you look at the college going rate in terms of Apply Kansas and really trying to assess the impact of Apply Kansas. So the 2023 class of 2023 college going rate, that is specific to the 2022 Apply Kansas initiatives. So the Apply Kansas initiatives again happened in the fall. So that class of 2023 would have participated in the 2022 application or Apply Kansas numbers that we saw. During that Apply Kansas 2022, we had just over half of our school districts participate in the campaign. So it was actually about 43% to be exact participating in the campaign at that time. So we're hopeful that with the, again, significant growth that we saw with this year's campaign, with the 89% of school districts involved, that we'll continue to see momentum in our college going rate. We do have, we're utilizing this college going rate as a baseline to really understand and see if there is an impact based on these initiatives. And just for additional information, be aware, this is on our kansasregions.gov website under the Students tab, and just click on Apply Kansas. There's additional annual reports located and resources there. I'm going to transition now to the Apply Free Days yield. Be happy to answer questions now or wait.
Are there any questions for Misty so far? I think you can go ahead, Misty.
Thank you. So I want to first begin by expressing my sincere gratitude to our institutions for their contributions to the Apply Free Days efforts the last couple of years. And they've really ramped up their marketing supports as well. I also want to extend appreciation to Colleen in our DRP department for collecting and disaggregating the data. I believe she's on here today, so thanks, Colleen. I appreciate it. So the Apply Free Days initiative aligns again with the Building a Future strategic plan and board goals by supporting our Kansas families, removing those barriers that hinder students from pursuing post-secondary ed, and expanding access to higher education, particularly for those underserved populations. So in today's report, I'll provide you an update on the 2023 and 2024 applications received during the free application days, as well as a 2023 yield data based on our most recent aggregate collection. The Apply Free Days initiative was established as a pilot and is still in the pilot phase as of current. It was designated again to increase the college going and FAFSA completion rates by reducing that financial barrier to higher ed. The program really encourages more students to apply to college and pursue post-secondary education, ultimately with hopes to expand the number of graduates entering the workforce with competitive skills. So we have some baseline data on the college going rate, as I mentioned. Next year, we'll be able to start measuring the impact of Apply Free Days through the class of 2024 college going rate, and that'll be released about this time again next year. Last year's rollout with the simplified FAFSA really negatively impact the FAFSA college FAFSA completion rates, unfortunately. So given these challenges, the FAFSA completion data remains inconclusive at this time when we talk again, reflecting back on the goals of this initiative. So the Apply Free Days was proposed to the board in July 2023 with the first event held over 3 days. It was November 7th through the 9th, 2023. And then it continued in 2024 with the event held over the 3 days, October 7th through the 9th, 2024. So during the Apply Free Days, all Kansas institutions waive their undergraduate application fees for Kansas residents during those 3 days. And I want to take a moment to really note the difference between Apply Kansas and Apply Free Days here. Since some high schools align their Apply Kansas application completion events with these 3 days, others do not. It's really just a matter of what works best with that high school and with that Apply Kansas site coordinator. A lot of times for the Apply Kansas events, they're involving multiple individuals, not only from career, but also higher ed in those events. So it's just really accustomed to what works best for each high school as to whether it's, a joint effort with Apply Kansas or not. Additionally, application fee waivers for financial hardship, they're available year around. The eligibility requirements for the fee waivers include if the student receives an ACT, SAT fee waiver, if they participate in the free reduced lunch program, Gear Up, JAG, TRIO, and in similar programs. Additional information resources relevant to the Apply Free Days are located on our website under the Students tab. Just go to kansasregions.gov, Students tab, plethora of information there. This report will be available on there after my board report today. Let's first take a look at the national landscape for free application initiatives. So you can see here all the states offering free application initiatives. As I'd mentioned, the state coordinators for Apply Kansas meet monthly. Some of the conversations that come out of that are specific to the free application initiatives nationally. So that's where this information is gathered and really vetted through the individuals that are overseeing those efforts. So you can see here 3 days, Kansas, Colorado. You have a few states there that are, week, 2 weeks, month, 2 to 3 months, and year around. Really focusing on the Midwest region, you have North Dakota, that's a month, Michigan, that's a month, South Dakota, that's 2 months, Minnesota's a month, Iowa you see there is a week, Indiana a week. I know Missouri and Nebraska, they don't have specific initiatives yet, but they do offer that financial hardship fee waiver. I know there is discussions within those states for some initiatives. To better understand the data reported today, I want to first take a look at the application fees across our public institutions. At this time, we have 4 universities and 2 technical colleges charging application fees. And applying to the community colleges is free, as you can see there, year-round. This slide displays the application submissions for 2023 and 2024 Apply Free Days, along with the percentage change between these years. Sectors with application fees, as you can see here, so that would be the state universities and technical colleges, they experienced the largest increase in application submissions during the 2024 free application days. So this indicates that more students applied to those sectors with application fees in 2024 when we compare that to 2023. And then from 2023 to 2024, the applications received during the Apply Free Days increased by 76% for our public institutions. By utilizing the application fees mentioned a couple slides ago, these application fees are typically charged at our public institutions outside of the Apply Free Days, right? So we can see the amount of money saved by our institutions and families by who applied during those free application days in 2023 and 2024. So you can see there, as a result of the 2024 free application days, our students and families across the state saved $481,570 because of this initiative. We'll now transition to the yield data collection for students who applied during the November 7th through the 9th, 2023. Students associated with the 2024 enrollment terms, that would be the spring 24, summer 24, and fall 24 enrollment terms, are gathered within this data reported today. And you'll see a visual to better depict this in the next slide. But the Apply Free Days yield data is collected in 2 phases. The first phase, as I will report today, is going to capture, again, that Apply Free Days application activity from the November 7th through the 9th and October 2024 dates, as well as the aggregate application and enrollment data, admission data for the 2024 terms that are associated specifically with that November 2023 Apply Free Days. So with this collection, we're able to calculate the yield for each institution, similar as our institutions can calculate in-house. And then the unit record collection, this will be through the KEDS AY student level collection, and it's going to include applications from the Apply Free Days 2023, and then also enrollments to provide a more precise information that's going to be tied to those student records. So when we're looking at our student records, the duplication in the data, we believe this unit record collection will be able to give us a better picture for that. And this was the graphic that I mentioned just to really show which enrollment terms we are capturing in today's yield data. So the Apply Free Days occurred in November 2023. This is the first pilot phase. And the data that we are reporting today in the 2024 enrollment terms will be from spring 2024, summer 2024, and fall 2024 enrollments. First, let's talk about definitions that might be helpful to inform, really what we're seeing on these slides. When we talk about actionable applications, these are going to be complete applications with no missing materials. Admitted applications, these are going to be students who have received acceptance to that institution that they applied to. Enrolled are going to be students who applied that enrolled in the respective terms collected. Incomplete, these are going to be applications minus the actionable applications. So potentially these applications are missing information or materials to continue processing that application. And then moving on to the yield. So of these students who were admitted, how many actually enrolled at our institutions? So in the following slides, we're going to examine the yield data for applications submitted during those 2023 Apply Free Days. We'll move on to the overall applications received in the yield, and then we'll see the yield without the Apply Free Days applications. And then we'll see a breakdown by population. We'll also be able to see the yield side by side for each of the application yield areas mentioned. First, starting off, we'll report on the applications submitted only during the Apply Free Days 2023. So along the left, you'll see their sectors. Along the top from left to right, you see, again, the total applications submitted for public institutions. That was 9,871. Actionable applications, these are complete applications with no missing materials. For public institutions, again, was 9,294. Incomplete applications, so these are all applications minus those actionable applications. So they potentially missing some information or materials to continue processing. For public institutions, that was 577 applications. There was a 6%, that's all of those applications received that were incomplete. And then for admitted, the students that applied during the 2023 Apply Free Days, 8,733 students received acceptance to their respective institution. And then 2,593 students are enrolled at that respective institution during the terms that we've collected. Then for the yield of those students who are admitted, 30% actually enrolled. Moving on to the overall, so this slide shows really all the applications for those 2024 enrollment terms. So this data includes those 2023 Apply Free Days applications. So the yield for the admitted applications at our public institutions was 49%. For public institutions specifically, as we go through that data, that there was 91,707 total applications submitted during the 2024 terms. Of those, 86,314 were actionable applications. There was 5,393 or similarly, 6% were incomplete applications. 79,292 students were admitted. Then 39,456 students enrolled, which brings a yield to 49% for all applications during those enrollment terms. We'll move down to the applications that were submitted excluding the apply free days application. So excluding the November 7th through the 9th, 2023 dates. So for our public institutions specifically, there was 81,836 total applications submitted. Of those, 77,000-ish were actionable. 4,816 were incomplete. So the percentage of incomplete applications on this slide is 6%. So for those submitted both during and outside of apply free days. So this is indicating that the rate of incomplete applications that we're seeing, so those missing required materials to progress, it remains consistent regardless of the submission period reported. Moving on to admitted, there were 71,059 students who were admitted, 36,863 students enrolled, as you can see. This brings our yield to 52% for applications submitted, again, outside of those November 2023 apply free days. All right, here's the summary. Likely the more important, it really depicts the yield side by side. So you can see more significantly the impact. So for the apply free days applications at our public institutions, specifically, the yield is 30%. The overall yield of all those applications, including the apply free days, is 49%. Now, when we exclude those apply free days 2023, that yield then is 52%. So we're now going to break down the data by population in the left column here. The second column lists a number of applications showing how many students from each population contributed to the total applications. The column further to the right, on the very end there, you can see the yield for each population, as with similar previous slides. But the first generation students you see there can also be represented in the numbers listed below. So this can be first generation students from any race, ethnicity are depicted here. So you can kind of see the comparison of the first generation number of applications to the all applicants number on the very bottom row. So for the Hispanic and Latino and Black and African American populations, students are categorized in one or the other. So those are not duplicated for those two areas. Then the total number of applications is the sum of the first time entering, transfer, and other student applications. So as you can see, those populations there. Just to further explain the other applicants, so these might be students, and you can see there the yield, 60% is rather high. So these students are, by definition, students who have attended the institution previously, returning to pursue an undergraduate award, maybe are required to reapply. So that, again, we saw the highest yield for the transfer students, followed then by the other population, and so on. So again, we break this down by yield side by side. So among the apply free days applicants, transfer students have the highest yield at 60%, followed by the other applicant category at 48%. And notably, students in the other category, again, yielded a higher rate during the apply free days at 48% compared to the overall, and then excluding the apply free days applications, as you can see there. So for the overall, other applicants yield 64, followed by the same category at 47, Black and African American students at 45%, first generation students at 42%. When we exclude the apply free days, the yield remains consistent with the overall yield. So the decision on continuing this effort is certainly up for conversation today for recommendation to the board. It is our recommendation to continue with the 3-day initiative in 2025 based on the stakeholder feedback. And you can see there who the stakeholders involved in this conversation, who reviewed, the feedback and this proposal, and are aware of this presentation today for sure. We want to remain consistent with the October date for the Apply Kansas application month designated in previous years by Governor Brownback. The admission directors at our public universities, they are our Apply Free Days committee. So they meet consistently to review and really take a look at, how we can improve efforts and what we're doing. And then also another stakeholder is the leadership involved within CACRO. That's the Kansas Association of Collegiate Registrars and Admissions Officers. And also KICA, our Independent Colleges Association. And then the Apply Kansas Steering Committee, just to really better understand that, this committee consists of regional representation from the Apply Kansas site coordinators. So those individuals who are offering the Apply Kansas initiatives across the state, and then also higher ed admissions professionals, admissions staff, at our 2 years. 2-year institutions. And again, during these discussions, there was a concern raised about the potential conflict with the CACRO college fair circuit. So this is when our admissions staff travel across the state and participate in college fairs. And their CACRO circuit typically starts in October. So to better understand, what are and address the concern, to better understand what our 301 Apply Kansas site coordinators really want, we sent out a survey with 4 different dates. And of those dates, of those responses, 76% of those respondents selected dates in October, with 48% favoring sticking with the second week in October, the 3 days, October 6th through the 8th, 2025. So again, I'll open that up for discussion now. Stand for questions.
Thank you for that very detailed report, Misty. Are there any questions from the committee members for Misty?
Diana, this is Alicia Johnston.
Mhm.
I thank you so much for the data. I think it really was significant and important. And it does look like we're certainly getting more and more students applying, which is a good thing. I am curious, and I know that this came up last year, if we have some sort of data from the universities about just the economics of how much is it costing them in terms of loss in application fees, but also what it costs them to process those extras. And, in this case, does the value of having more students apply and the yield that causes, does that make up for the financial burden and the burden of personnel usage, which would include, that is, eventually cost money in terms of these applications. I was just curious if the colleges, I know we've talked about that before, had any data that they could give us on that.
Good morning, Regent Johnston, or if we're still in, good morning, I think we are. It's Barb Bickelmeyer from KU. And I'd offer, we do have some data on that I could get for you and am very willing to share. It does, I would say for the University of Kansas, we do have an option for students who have financial hardship to be able to choose that option and be relieved of paying. I'm also mindful, this is 3 days, and to Misty's point, we've been in, we're in another cycle of this now, and 3 days is the minimum and the time frame for that. I recognize that the number of students who apply, and particularly from demographic groups that have historically been underrepresented, does increase as a function of this activity. So I really respect that happens. It does cost us a significant amount of money to process those. So that's where the number of duplications, if we could refine that, addressing that, and has been a key conversation that we've had as well, and recognizing that it is something where we are yet again working on a mandate that I think is a worthy mandate, but that does cost us something. And it's to the tune of I think for KU, multiple tens of thousands of dollars, if not about $100,000 in processing time and effort from our staff. But again, I'm supportive of what we're doing and the minimum number of days that we're doing it for those reasons of the reach out. But it is not cost neutral for us for sure. If you want the exact data, I can get it to you and have it sent to you in the near future.
I don't need the exact data, but I greatly appreciate your explanation of that. And like you said, even though it's not cost neutral, given the limited number of days and the yield, especially when we talk about, our students that might be disadvantaged, then probably that is hopefully in the end anyway, that will advantage enough students that it makes up for the fact that it's not cost neutral. I did have one more question, just kind of looking at the data. It looks like that the transfer students obviously yield the greatest number, but they also had the highest percentage of incomplete applications. Would that be due to maybe not getting transcripts to the institutions? Or I wonder if anybody had any insight on that or how we might solve that if that's an issue.
I don't have a really clear understanding of what's behind that. I don't know if any of my peer provosts do. But we did, I noticed that this morning as well in the reporting.
Thank you.
Regent Johnston, I'm not going to restate anything that Provost Bickelmeyer said, other than to say Fort Hays can also provide data. Of course, our numbers aren't as large as KU's. However, it's a significant, because we pride ourselves on processing those applications very, very quickly. And so that leads to overtime and things like that. So if that is something that the board would like to see more specifically from not only KU, but Fort Hays and other institutions, I can work with the enrollment management team to pull that together, if that would be helpful in making decisions moving forward. I do appreciate the spirit of this free application day, though.
Thank you for that. As far as I'm concerned, I don't need to see the specific data, but I am interested in what your folks, think of how, I guess what the production is, the yield. I certainly appreciate those numbers. And if you think it's a worthwhile endeavor, given the fact that I'm sure it costs you time and money. So that's what I'm interested in. What do you all think about how this works? And so, once you guys look at the data, if you can just summarize it for us, that's fine with me. So it sounds like, at least for you two, you believe that it is a worthy endeavor for this 3-day free application. Would that be correct?
Could I ask that the provost might have some time to get together and answer that in some more detail? And get back to you the next meeting, because I don't know that we can quickly answer that in terms of process, because again, the duplicative efforts, the number, so for example, and I don't know enough to know from the first year's data, the second year's data, and maybe Jill or Jesse or others can help me. But in that first year, there were, students who were applying to every single KBOR institution and had no intention of going to some of them, but they just could apply. I do think and appreciate that. I think the board recognized that, or the staff were trying to figure out how to address that. But I don't know if we've made it yet. And I actually respect Misty's partnership with the national level group. I just don't know if it's as efficient as it can be yet to reduce the burden, because it is this big hit, to Jill's point. No matter how many staff you have, when you get this massive overload on 3 days and you need to have a quick turnaround, it's just really, really costly. So I don't know, Jesse, I saw you turning on your mic.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with everything that's being said here. I think we've, in terms of fees alone, we lose about, at K-State, about 165,000 overall, and we haven't really calculated how much that cost would be in staff time in processing. But having said that, I agree with Provost Bickelmeyer and Provost Ehrensorf. Probably happy to get together as provosts and kind of talk this through and provide you more of a collective response overall. I mean, ideologically, I think you won't find the provost as against this because I mean, post-secondary access is just something that we're here for. So, but there is a cost to this.
I greatly appreciate that. And, maybe, we can, I know Misty's done a ton of work on this, and certainly the data group has, to be able to look at all the different aspects we've already looked at. But maybe if there is something that we can do proactively as a group, with you guys' recommendation, maybe we can somehow make it a more efficient process in terms of just the process of how they apply during those 3 days. So I would be interested in hearing you guys' opinion on what those processy changes may or may not be.
Thank you. I think we'll be happy to have that conversation and get back with you.
Regent Johnston, if I may, just really quick, you were talking about, the cost, just quick figures for Fort Hays. It was $51,570 based on the number of applicants that they received during the 3 days in 2024. And then for KU, based on the number of applications received during those 3 days, their cost was $132,280. And then, as you had mentioned, the 3 days, it really, for their staffing and such, typically students are seeing a 48-hour-ish return on applications for admission, receiving that acceptance or their decision letter. During these 3 days, our admission staff are very they get very behind, as you can imagine. And typically it'll take, and we ask for grace, from our high schools, during these times, but typically it's about a couple weeks processing. That's assuming they have all the application materials there within their application to be able to continue through that process. So just to kind of paint that picture for you as well.
Oh, missed that button. Thank you.
Thank you for that information, Misty, and thank you for the to the provost for the thoughts on this initiative. So I did have I don't know if it's really a question or more of a thought, but in the numbers we're seeing students that applied per campus, right, Misty? Let's say that a student applied, like Provost Bickelmeyer said, to 3 or 4 different institutions and then ultimately decided on one. And 3 in those institutions, it's going to show that they applied but didn't attend. And then in the other, it's going to show they applied and attended, correct? So some of these numbers could be duplicates within the data.
Correct. And then, the KEDS AY collection, I think, we'll be able to, again, give us a bigger picture by, eliminating that duplication based on the student level data.
And then my other question, maybe this is more for the provost. I know, Misty, you mentioned it as well. I've heard, I think, a couple of times now that there is an option for students who have a financial burden to apply to waive those fees, right? My thought is, what does that process look like for them to apply to waive those fees? And is it just creating one more barrier, one more obstacle that they have to go through in order to even apply, to even begin that path? I guess I'm just curious as to how that looks on the different campuses, or even at the board office.
This is from KU. Since I started the conversation here in this, I'll jump in and say, and I will say that my registrar would not love me for saying this, but this is where, to Jill's point and to Jesse's, I'm really mindful. The spirit of this work is really important work, and really want to recognize that and honor the way to make changes as much as possible. A student simply has one additional step if they want to request a waiver for the fee, and that is to click on a button and fill out a form. But the fact is, they have to click on a button and fill out the form, and they have to know to do that. And that's where I'm mindful that when there's a statewide initiative that says, hey, these are the 3 days, and it's facilitated, there is a great benefit to that. So, so I want to recognize they can, but they have to see it, they have to know to do it, and they have to fill out the form. That's at KU. I'm not sure how it works in other places.
Thank you, Provost Bicklemeyer. I guess my thought with that is just like you said, they have to click on another button and fill out another form. And some of these individuals who may need that assistance have probably already had to click on another button and fill out another form. And there's probably a lot of those barriers within their overall, I guess, journey towards attempting to attend post-secondary institutions. So that's just where my thought was going with that. I do appreciate the provost adding both perspectives. I know you guys are about students and you want, we want our students attending, but there are some things that we need to work on the back end. So Misty, you mentioned there will be additional data available. What were the dates on that again?
So the KEDS AY collection will be next October that we could potentially report out on that data. So based on the proposal before you guys today to continue the pilot, or establish, as a program, those apply free days would be during the same month potentially as when that data would be able to be reported out.
I think what I'm hearing, and anybody can jump in, but what I'm hearing is maybe we need to look a little bit more at the data, but we do think this is a worthy endeavor, and perhaps maybe we, as the committee, we decide to pilot another year so that we can get that additional data and then maybe decide from there. But I'm open to suggestions or options from others.
Chairman Dozet, this is Alicia. And I agree with that. I would like to add that as I think some of the provosts have already volunteered to get together and visit about, sort of not just data that they could provide, but maybe some options in terms of the processes of eliminating some of the duplications, that type of thing. I would like, to maybe with the motion, in addition to, piloting the program, let's also look at ways to possibly make it be a more efficient program in terms of at least getting rid of some of the duplication. I would like to hear from the provosts about what they think we could do to make this a better process, not just for the students, but for the institutions as well, because that's vitally important, once the students get there. So I don't know exactly what that motion looks like, but I guess from my perspective, it would be a motion that includes approval of piloting the program with input from the provost, as well as increased data as it is received.
I think, maybe and other provosts can fill in. I think I try not to shoot from the hip in terms when it comes to recommendations. I wonder if it might be best for the provosts to get together and we kind of have a group think about this and then provide you all with a comprehensive list of recommendations going forward.
This is Jill Arnsdorf from Fort Hays. I concur with that. I think it's just a little time. We don't need a lot, but a little time to regroup, have some conversations. I know at Fort Hays, I don't oversee enrollment management, so I need to do a little bit more fact finding with another area of the institution. I know some of my other fellow provosts do oversee it, but I need a little time to do some more homework. And I think that's what I've heard from a couple of others as well today.
Thanks, Jill. I was going to echo that same sentiment. I'd really like to gather that data from our enrollment specialists because I don't oversee them either. So thanks for sharing that.
Okay, thank you all for that input. I'm sorry, did somebody else want to?
This is Barb. I would just say, echoing the fact that I don't think we need a lot of time on this. So you can set us a deadline of your next meeting or, in your next off Regents meeting in 2 weeks or in a month, and we will get as much as we can get, depending on what date works best for you.
If I could interject just one thing, and Misty, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't this going to the board for its approval this afternoon? Is it's Bass intending to ask the board to kind of follow suit and put a hold on that decision until we collect this additional information?
Correct. It's on the board agenda for today under the discussion agenda. Will be reported out similarly as here. And I would take that recommendation, Regent Mendoza, take the recommendation forward to the board and articulate the discussions today reported by you all.
I think my next question with that would be, what is if we were to ask the board to maybe table this until our next meeting, what does that do for your deadlines and timelines that you have in place, Misty?
So for the March meeting, that really doesn't necessarily hinder, the progress of moving forward. I would support tabling that recommendation until March. Yeah.
So I guess I'll go ahead and make a motion that we table this discussion or this vote until our next board meeting. In the meantime, if the provost could please gather some of that information and some of those some things that you think are relevant and need to be addressed in this conversation, I would appreciate that from you all.
And Misty will include in her presentation what Basque has deliberated here, correct, Misty?
And again, if I could speak for the provost, I really appreciate Regent Johnston asking the questions that led to this conversation. I think I recognize that. I again want to say, and any of my provosts, peer provosts could echo this. I do think we are understandably, for the reasons we mentioned, supportive of this, and understand and appreciate that it's 3 days and not more than that. So I just want to be clear that we are not trying to be obstructionist anyway from having this move forward. So I appreciate Misty saying it wouldn't derail things too much if we tabled it for a month, because I think what we're talking about is process. And if we don't need process information for the approval, I think we understand that as well. But to have a little more conversation about how we can make it better, I think would our registrars would all appreciate this tremendously. So just think again, I've heard everybody say it's the spirit. We support the spirit of this, absolutely. If we can make it better for the staff, that would be great.
Chairman
So
Mendoza, this is Alicia. I think I had a motion out there that said we'd go ahead and approve, but wanted to look at the process. So I would like to rescind that motion, and because I think I need to get that one off the table that I put out there. But I'm also in approval of, tabling it, whichever way works the best. I mean, I think we could approve it and work with process, but I think tabling it is appropriate too. So I would second the idea to table it until March, and as we get the recommendations from provost.
So just so the record shows, I made the motion and Regent Johnson seconded that. So all those in favor in tabling this item to the next board meeting signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? All right. Thank you all for your insight, and thank you to the provost for your willingness to dig into that data a little bit more for us. Okay. Moving on to our next item of business, we have Dr. Mulholland with an update on the first 15.
Thank you. January meeting, I was encouraged, but what I believed was an agreement for a pilot with a single course.
Dr. Mulholland, I'm sorry, you froze at the beginning of your information again. Could you back up to the beginning, please?
Sure. The first 15 work group met January 21st and again on February 6th. At the January meeting, I was encouraged by what I believed was an agreement for a pilot with a single course, most likely English Composition 1. When we met in February, we began our meeting with an open forum that included non-work group members. That was a fruitful conversation, I think, and it focused primarily on how the initiative would be funded, although many other concerns also were discussed. Upon conclusion of that discussion, the work group tried to pick up where we had left off in January, but made no meaningful progress. KBOR staff is working now to collect some additional data before the work group meets again, which I hope will be in the next several weeks. I'm happy to stand for any questions if there are any.
Dr. Monholly, you mentioned that in February when you all met, I'm sorry, did you say that there wasn't a lot of progress at that meeting?
Well, we spent most of the time was this kind of open forum discussion in which we entertained comments and questions and input from individuals that have a vested interest in this process but are not officially members of the work group. And I don't criticizing that. I think it was a good exercise, and I think it helped me at least understand some of the challenges we're facing and perhaps pointed to some areas that we might look at in terms of trying to reach some kind of consensus so we can move forward. Having said that, though, upon conclusion of that forum, when we came back to where we had left off in January, I had hoped we could begin to move forward on putting some additional detail around a pilot, nailing down, is it for example, do we want the course to be English Comp 1? Whatever progress we could make, but we just didn't have either the energy or the momentum, or I'm not sure how to characterize it, but we concluded the meeting without any further progress than what we had achieved in January.
When is your next committee meeting?
We have not scheduled one yet. Academic affairs staff and my colleagues in other areas of the agency are trying to pull together some additional information about need and coverage. There were some other data points raised by both in the forum and among the work group members. So we're trying to get some of that data together before we schedule a meeting. That seemed to be one of the underlying issues people wanted to have and to see and to assess before we could continue to move forward.
Is there anybody from that committee that's on today that had any thoughts or ideas around this initiative?
I believe Kim Doherty was on earlier. Kim, are you still on? Perhaps not.
I just wanted to give the opportunity for some of those individuals to, if there's concerns or thoughts that they have, to share those now.
President Ruda is on. If he, if he would like to make any comments. I'm just scanning the the attendee list for work group members to see who else is on the call that.
Yes, this is this is Ryan Ruda, and and then I think as Vice President Mulholland had mentioned.
On the call.
Oh, yeah. So, President Ruda, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. No, I think as Vice President Mulholland had mentioned, there's been considerable conversation, discussion. I think the kind of where things lie right now is really just trying to get a true picture on not only implementation but funding. The funding piece is really where some robust conversation within the committee and even others during the last meeting when we had open comments really seemed to be circulating. So I do think that there is willingness to look at what opportunities may exist, but frankly, I think the funding and the service area piece are two areas that continue to keep coming up and kind of hanging up some of the conversation and discussion going forward.
Thank you for that. Dr. Mulholland, did you, you mentioned the team putting together some additional data. Would that address some of those topics that President Ruda just mentioned?
I mean, I think the funding piece is going to be, a challenge. It doesn't, it seems unlikely that there would be additional funding from the state forthcoming. So as I've, as we've laid out, we need to figure a way forward within our existing pots of money or just existing sources of revenue right now. And I certainly appreciate the challenges that presents for the community and technical colleges. It's perhaps equally large challenge, if not more so, for state universities. I still am hopeful, and I think there is a way forward. We just need to, continue to think if this has to be an incremental process, then how can we do it in such a way that we can have the participation we need, minimize the pain and the cost to different institutions, various sectors, and put something in place that will help more students have access to dual enrollment courses. I have no illusions about the issues at stake, and I certainly appreciate the fiscal impact this can have, but I still think there is a path forward. We just have to continue to think creatively and see, can we spread some of that fiscal pain around in such a way that it makes it more attractive for students and feasible for institutions. If we have to do it, incrementally, then perhaps that's the path forward. But I don't think we've quite reached that point yet. My hope is the data we're collecting will help to answer some of those questions around, what exactly is the unmet need, the demand for, lower cost or no cost enrollment, dual enrollment for students. I think there were some other questions, some other data issues that I've jotted down that I can't recall right at the moment, but I think taking a look at them will at least provide us with a direction and hopefully some additional conversation that we can continue to talk and find that path forward.
Thank you, Dr. Monholland. With the first 15, this initiative is really about, I think you indicated, Dr. Monholland, it's about increasing access for students and increasing that access across the state of Kansas. I guess the concern that I have is we have students who live in certain parts of the state that have that. Their community college or university or whoever it is that provides those courses is doing it free of charge. So they have that opportunity, but then there are other students in the state that don't have that same opportunity. So I guess my wondering is, what is it that those that are not charging tuition for those courses, what is it that they're doing? What is their model? And can we learn a little bit more about what they're doing and how they're funding that in order to maybe support some of this work? So, and I don't know if that's part of the committee's job or where we would do that, Dr. Monholland, but.
Well, it is, and I think, President Ruda, please correct me if I'm misrepresenting anything. I think some of the response that I've heard within the work group is that we can't really develop a standard model, a standard approach that would, apply to all institutions within the state. And I think we heard on February 6th that, some institutions use certain pots of money that they are able to do it at no cost or virtually no cost. Some institutions feel that students need to have at least some skin in the game. And so there's a nominal or a very low cost that they have to, students have to pay. I think it varies by college and by district. So there isn't, just one example, I think, that is working, perfectly in an ideal world, how we would like to see this work. But there are efforts being made by, a number of institutions to keep the costs down and make that available to students. I think I heard, and I'm paraphrasing here, but the community colleges and the technical colleges, I think, feel that they are doing everything they can right now to provide these courses, provide these opportunities to all the students in their service area at the lowest possible cost. And I certainly don't doubt that. I think what the regents have pointed out and kind of been a guiding star for me is that that varies so much across the state that because of where you reside in Kansas means some students have very good and low cost access to dual enrollment opportunities. But if you live elsewhere, those costs can be quite different. And I think that's the, as I understand it, and what's been kind of animating my approach is what the regents think as well. Please correct me if I'm misinterpreting that.
No, that's absolutely correct. Okay, well, we look forward to hearing more from the committee. I guess depending on when you get that data together and when you guys meet, I'm sure you'll provide another update for us.
Yes, I
Okay.
certainly will.
All right, thank you. Moving on to the reduced credit baccalaureate discussion.
Yeah. I'm looking at the clock. Perhaps this is something we could table until our next meeting. I don't think it's that urgent that we bring this up at this time, but I will defer to the committee.
I would be okay with that. Do we have any other academic affairs updates we want to discuss before we conclude?
I would just like to mention that yesterday at Washburn University, we held our Complete College America Kansas joining that alliance, our official launch. We had 180 people register for the event. I think the threat of weather rightfully kept many people at home rather than making the trip to Topeka, but we still had about 115 people overall attend. So we were incredibly happy with the turnout. Just very quickly, I think this is a great opportunity for us in Kansas. CCA has been really a driving force in forcing us to look at what are the obstacles we put in front of students that inhibit their completing a college credential, and what can we do to help remove those obstacles. We've undertaken a lot of those initiatives and are in the midst of doing it. And I think the help, the support, the resources that Complete College America offers will be of tremendous value to us as we continue our work on these many initiatives. So I want to say again, I want to thank the academic affairs team for all their help in making this come about. I'd like to take credit for it, but it was really the team that did all the work. And so thank you, everyone.
Thank you for that, Dr. Monholland. I want to echo what Dr. Monholland just said. We had many items on our agenda today. I know there was a lot of work that went into all of this data and a lot of hands on deck working on these things. So I appreciate everyone's work on those different initiatives. So do we have anything else to come before the committee this morning?
This is Barb Bicklemar from KU, and I just simply wanted to also thank the academic affairs team at KBOR and Rusty particularly as he's stepping in leadership. I do think Complete College America will be a great program for the state of Kansas to be involved with, and look forward to participating.
And I'm just going to add to that. I didn't get unmuted quick enough. I was going to say the same thing. I've actually heard from the three from, I think there were 3 from 4A's. I've heard from 2 of them. I think I've heard from both. That at least Angela, the one I can think of, had a really good experience yesterday. She said that the group conversations was really, really phenomenal, and they got home safely before the snow began. So, but I think we had 3 there from 4A's, if I'm not mistaken.
You both for sharing. Right. Is there anything else to come before the committee? Any other thoughts, comments? Okay, so with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, and I would second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, thank you so much, everyone. We will see a lot of you again here shortly, and I hope everybody stays warm today. Thank you.
Thank you.